Good evening, all. Today, MS College of Engineering is celebrating World Environment Day 2020 with a theme, biodiversity. I request our principal, Dr. K.S. Badrinarayan, to welcome the chief guest.
A very good evening to all the participants and also our chief guest of the day, Dr. V.S. Prakash, sir. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I'm very
sir.
happy that you have accepted our invitation for the webinar, and your knowledge and the experience what you have, sir, very tremendous knowledge and experience in the various different fields, definitely is going to be very useful for all our participants. In fact, today when we talk about the biodiversity, if I was just going through some of the literature, I understand it's very, very important. And if you look at the two words for it is the biological and diversity, which we can say for biodiversity, the variety of life that can be found on earth, including the plants, animals, and as well as to the community that they form and the habitats in which they live. So biodiversity boosts ecosystem productivity, and large number of plant species means greater variety of the crops. So why we see the importance of the biodiversity is the healthy ecosystem that we are going to have, which cleans our water, purifies our air, and regulates our climate, and recycle the nutrients and provide us with the good food. So biodiversity is the key indicator for all the health of the ecosystem. So it's a very right topic that we are having on the environmental day. And I'm very happy that such a good personality and such an experienced person like Dr. V.S. Prakash is going to address us, all of us, and enrich our knowledge also about the biodiversity. Sir, I request our B.L. Shivakumar sir, Professor B.L. Shivakumar sir, the HOD of Civil Engineering, to introduce Dr. V.S. Prakash sir to all our delegates and start off the program. So I request Mr. Shivakumar to carry over, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Today we have an eminent speaker amongst us, Dr. V.S. Prakash. He is an eminent scientist. Currently, he is member Technical Expert Committee, Karnataka State Tanks Conservation and Development. Formerly, Sir had held all distinguished posts like advisor, registrar, International Institute of Information Technology, Bangalore, that is IIITB, founder and former special director, Karnataka State Natural Disasters Monitoring Center, director Drought Monitoring Center, and Karnataka State
Remote
Sensing Center. And he was a faculty, Rajiv Gandhi National Institute of Groundwater Resources and Training, Government of India, scientist, Ministry of Water Resources, Government of India, and is an expert witness for Karnataka interstate water disputes. We have such an eminent personality who will be discussing about the theme, today's theme, biodiversity, an expert lecture on the environmental engineering in water resources, with retrospective, perspective, and prospective. I request Dr. V.S. Prakash sir to bless us with this lecture. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shivakumar and sir.
Sir, Professor Rangana is also there, sir.
Yeah. I'm so happy to see Professor Rangana sir. Sir,
I welcome you, sir, Professor Rangana sir.
Rangana sir, namaste. After a long time, I'm seeing you. So nice of you, sir. So nice of you. I will start my presentation without much any preparation. I want to share my presentation.
Yes, sir.
Can you see my presentation? Greetings of World Environment Day 2020. It's a great privilege for me to be with you on this eventful day, the World Environment Day 2020. As I said already, it gives me great pleasure to see Professor G. Rangana sir for such a long time, very, very long time. In fact, I was speaking to Professor Shivkumar, few days back. That is a long time I have not met Professor Rangana, and it is so nice of him. He is here with us today. Can you hear me? Can I continue? Hello?
Yes, sir. You can continue.
Yeah.
You can continue,
Now,
sir.
so today is the World Environment Day, and the theme is Sustainable Management of Water Resources and Biodiversity, Retrospective, Perspective, and Prospective. Just to make a beginning, I've included two diagrams. We have, when we say biodiversity, how it is linked to the other two components, the geosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. So normally when we talk about biodiversity, the biosphere, the hydrosphere is an atmosphere are the very two components, which is integrated with the biosphere. So when we say biodiversity, yes, but here the biodiversity, the layer, thin layer, it connects hydrosphere, atmosphere, and the geosphere. And the biosphere draws the attention of many, many people. At the same time, it heavily depends on the hydrological regime in the area, hydrological regime, the characterization of the regime, the evaluation of the regime, the present situation, what it was earlier, what is going to be, the dynamic regime characteristics is very, very important in my opinion to understand the biodiversity. The biodiversity, when we talk biodiversity, we need to keep it in mind. It is a dynamic, not a static. It is not a linear. It is circular. It is a convergence of so many minds, ideas, things like that. And here, today, I would like to rather focus on the hydrosphere, the water resources. The water resources as important component, one of the component in the biodiversity. In retrospective, the present status, what needs to be done, perspective and prospective. We have with us, I suppose, many of the young engineering, our friends, young friends who are going to take over the mantle in the years to come. I would like to share with them the huge responsibility which is laying on the shoulders. Probably what we practiced over the last 4 to 5 decades, what they have seen, what they are going to see are going to be a different world altogether. So in the keeping it in mind, I would like to share some of the thoughts. I will go to the next slide. This is self-evident. I don't want to explain much about this slide. So when we say hydrosphere, water resources, it is the water cycle. The water cycle. So we normally think about a large water cycle, a global scale, global or a global dimension. But what we need to keep in mind is the small water cycles operating within the large water cycle. So the small water cycles could be small water cycles around my hut, in a village where I live. It could be a small water cycle in the land where I cultivate, irrigate. It could be a small water cycle of my village. It could be a small water cycle of my Gram Panchayat. So, it could be a small water cycle of irrigation tank which provides me water to my land, drinking water to my cattle. So, this small water cycle, clusters of innumerable millions and billions of small water cycles constitutes a large water cycle. Nevertheless, at the same time, the water beneath the ground in the aquifers where we live. So all these things put together forms a large water cycle. So how good are we in understanding large water cycle as well as the small water cycles around us is the entire crux of the issue, which I would like to share some of my thoughts. So the Earth's water cycle includes natural storage of water in the atmosphere, vegetation, soils, rivers, lakes, wetlands, aquifers, and the sea. The components of the water cycle, including large and small cycles, as just shared with you. When we talk about the theme, what comes to our mind? What are the components of the theme? The water cycle, which we discussed just now in brief, the spatial and temporal variations in the water cycle, the spatial and temporal variations in the water cycle, changes in the hydrological regime and implications of variability in water resources, our changing world, climate change, glacier retreat, sea level rise, saltwater intrusion, land use changes, the role of dams, environmental flows, the greenhouse gas emissions from reservoirs, health impacts of dams, sedimentation of reservoirs, and also eutrophication, which is a very important aspect. Large and small dams, groundwater storage, how much groundwater is stored, groundwater in the hydrological cycle, groundwater use, the future of fossil fuel, fossil water, enhancing recharge is managed aquifer recharge and storage. Alternatives to large-scale water storage, indigenous knowledge, virtual water and water footprints, desalinization, demand management, all these things are themes which comes to my mind. Continuation, the treatment and reuse of sewage, effluent, you call it as blue water, the green water, the gray water, the black water, and water of all colors. Of recent, we do hear about water of all colors in the streams and rivers which flows in our state or wherever we live across the country and maybe in the different parts of the globe. We hear about yellow water, we hear about different colors of water. So till now, when we talk about hydrological cycle, the gray water was not considered a component of the water cycle, the gray water, the effluent. The black water is normally used for the effluent, industrial effluent, the gray water for sewage water. So this sewage water and industrial effluent have also been integrated into the water cycle, the global or small scale water cycle around us. Till now, they were not considered as part of the water cycle. Now, the gray and black water are very much component of the water cycle around us. So when we talk about treatment and reuse of sewage and effluent, here some of the aspects should be kept in mind: the surface and groundwater pollution in poorly planned and managed projects. In well-planned and well-managed projects, well, this problem need not arise. But if the poorly planned and poorly managed projects, the surface and groundwater pollution is one of the big issues when we think about reuse of treated sewage and effluent. And well, when we treatment reuse of sewage and effluent, marketability of the crops and public acceptance, effect of water quality on soil and crops, public health concerns related to pathogens, bacteria, virus, etc. Wastewater reuse in agriculture shows that an integrated planning approach considering economic as well as environmental and health issues related to water reuse is essential to guarantee a success. Integrated catchment management is also one of the important component of the theme, and water policy supported by a good, reliable research and development initiatives and initiatives for sustainable development. All said and done, final word is sustainable development. How good are we in converging all these aspects and achieving a sustainable management through a proper initiatives, timely initiatives. Let me start with the present situation, the pandemic, which is bothering not only the people in Bangalore, Karnataka, India, all over the world, the pandemic. So it is a nature's message to mankind, because today is a biodiversity and message to mankind. And well, this pandemic, just to share with you, it had an impact on the local water cycle also, which I would like to share some of the aspects about it. So right way back in somewhere around April 22nd, I made an observation, and well, it came in the Indian Express. The virus taking sewage route, hotspots crop up near STPs we need to find out if there is any correlation between incidence of infection and sewage water. So this is the observation which I made. Incidentally, majority of hotspots of coronavirus or COVID-19 in Bangalore are situated close to sewage treatment plants. So followed by May 2nd, the previous observation which my observation appeared in Indian Express was in April 22nd. On May 2nd, this COVID-19 virus was reported in the sewage of Chennai. Samples collected in the sewage treatment of Chennai, presence was very much reported. So this COVID-19 lockdown had an impact on the groundwater levels also. I had an opportunity of making some observation on the groundwater levels in Bangalore city. And because I had the opportunity of installing sensors, 4 sensors in Bangalore city to monitor groundwater level every 20 seconds. Every 20 seconds. This is a pressure transducer with a data logger. Data comes to my laptop every 20 seconds. And I will share with you, well, one sensor was in my house here in the HSR layout, and another was in electronic. 3 sensors were in electronicity. Well, let us look at the hydrographs. So this is the report which appeared in Deccan Herald on April 26. The groundwater levels rise as lockdown cuts commercial usage. Let us look at the hydrographs. This is a hydrograph of the HSR layout where I live. The water level has come up by nearly more than 6 meters after the lockdown was imposed. Because all the commercial establishments were closed, there was not much rain. On the right side, you can just see a steep rise in the water level. That is because of the rain on 27, 28, 29. It added to the further rise in the groundwater level. Otherwise, the water level which was around 60 feet, that is around 18 meters in my home, which has come up to nearly 10 to 12 meters right now. The water level has come up by about 12 meters in HSR layout. In electronicity, it is giving amazing picture. It is amazing picture. The water level groundwater level which was at about 589.4 feet came up to something like about 32 to 33 feet, 34 feet. So there was a rise of about 550 feet in the groundwater levels in and around electronicity because huge commercial establishments heavily depend on groundwater extraction. Groundwater is extracted 24/7, 365 days. This lockdown made the groundwater level jump up by about 550 feet. Well, let me share something about atmosphere, which is very closely linked to the biosphere, biodiversity. I had the privilege of being a part of the founder of Karnataka State Natural Disaster Monitoring Center, which I joined in 1988 from Government of India. I came on deputation, later got absorbed. I came with a dream of installing a weather monitoring sensor and rainfall monitoring sensor all over the state in every village, every revenue village was my ambition, but I could able to achieve it up to Gram Panchayat level. Nearly 8,000 sensors were installed before I retired in 2014, covering all the Gram Panchayats in Karnataka state, and about 1,000 weather monitoring sensors covering all the hoblis in the state. This is a very schematic diagram. Well, you can see the rain gauge in the where I'm standing, and again the pictorial there, the telemeter rain gauge, how it is connected to GPRS. So GPRS data coming to my server to my mobile or laptop, whatever it is. On near real time, right side you can see the rainfall distribution map capturing the signature of rainfall, the footprint of rainfall that was not available anywhere, even in Karnataka or anywhere in the country, at this scale, at this temporal resolution and spatial resolution. Here it captures rainfall every 15 minutes. So here we have such a wealth of data as far as the atmosphere, the rainfall, the weather systems are concerned. So here, just to give you an example, I've shown you some pictures about rainfall map today at 3 p.m. morning 8:30 till 3 p.m. today. The first picture on the left side is the rainfall. You can see the scattered rainfall in some parts of coastal and interior Gadag, Haveri, in Haveri, and in Mysore, Mandya, Chamarajanagar, very light scattered rainfall. By and large, interior Karnataka is showing white color, no rain. The second is temperature distribution map. You can see the temperature distribution where it is ranging between almost 20 degree to 36 degrees Celsius. Just 24 to 36. 12 degrees Celsius is the difference in temperature at 3 p.m. today for Karnataka state. The third is relative humidity. You can see it is as low as something like about 30% in Yadgir, Bijapur, and as high as nearly 100%. So relative humidity variation is 30 to 100% right now at 3 p.m. today. And the wind speed, you can see some of the places adjoining Bellary, you see the wind speed going up to about 1.72 kilometer per hour. Sorry, it's a meter per second, 2 meters per second. So in retrospective, we know this is the surface water. I'm standing on the bank of the river, and this is the gauging station. We do take the data, analyze, make a lot of inference, and develop huge projects, but see the gauging station, how bad it is, dilapidated condition. You can see the gauge, hardly you can read it. For probably person who takes the reading, I don't know how he reads it. So this is the status of gauging stations in, many of the places in our country. Probably when we talk about the biodiversity, this hydrological aspect, the hydrosphere is also a very important component. Biosphere and hydrosphere are very closely interlinked with each other. So you can see here the water which is presently in the river. Last year I was there, is much behind the last gauging pole. It cannot be read at all. It cannot be read at all. So here we talk about satellite linked gauging stations, where many of the nodal agencies in the country, in the state, they say that we have the satellite linked gauging stations. You can see the sensor. The sensor is far away from the river water. So probably you can imagine what data we can get in this situation. What I mean is, it's not criticizing. It is not at all. It is really, I said, retrospective, perspective, prospective. My young friends are there. For this, you need to keep it in mind. I've got a huge responsibility on them to address all these issues and bring some meaning into this, what is going on around us. So based on this, this is one part, and second part is when we talk about water resources, the surface water availability empirically even today, by and large, is taken as 30% of the rainfall. But in the field reality, it is zero. It is zero based on the water budgeting, based on the actual measurement which were carried out. And many times it doesn't exceed 10%. The runoff doesn't exceed 10% of the rainfall. But by and large, we still continue to take 30% of rainfall as a runoff in a stream or into a lake or into a river. We need to have at least about 20,000 gauging sites in Karnataka state to monitor the runoff, and we need to monitor the water spread area, storage and surface water bodies, streams, rivers, tanks. Really, we got about 30,000, 35,000 tanks. The reservoirs need to be done. So here, just see, this is the Hemavati river flow over the years since 1977-78 to 2015-16, capturing about 40 years data. The flow has dwindled to 1/3 of what it was in 1977-78. The rivers are dying. The flow in the rivers are dwindling. The rivers which were effluent have become influent. The river which used to contribute water started drinking on its own. The effluent rivers are becoming influent. this is going to have much more, already has got an effect on the biodiversity, is going to have much more bigger effect on the biodiversity in the years to come. So this needs to be kept in mind. So here, in the perspective, I made an attempt to surface soil moisture is very, very important, surface soil moisture. And here I've just taken two pictures of the relative surface soil moisture on 25th July and 2nd August. See the difference? The build-up in, I've just showed two arrows, just for example, down below in Chamarajanagar, the relative soil moisture has come down, has dwindled. And whereas, look at the Bidar, the soil moisture is improved. So this we can do at a interval of every day, every week, which is going to be very, very helpful in understanding the dynamic nature of the biodiversity, including the hydrosphere, including the hydrological regime. Then again, this is last one is surface soil moisture. This is root zone soil moisture. Root zone soil moisture again based on the remote sensing data. So you can see how the difference between 17 July and 2nd August. See the difference where the soil moisture is built up. This I used because, remember last year, 2019, we did cloud seeding. Where to seed, where not to seed. So I used it as making a diary because I was made the chairman of the monitoring advisory committee. There were 2 aircrafts, 3 Doppler radar. So decide where to seed, where not to seed. So the decision was taken based on this data. Now the soil moisture status. Where the soil moisture is good, no need to do cloud seeding. Probably we focused on areas where the soil moisture is less or the soil moisture stress is there. So this is like this, we can certainly monitor the water spread area. The remote sensing data products are there. You can see the shrink of the water, how it is shrinking, and probably this can be done. Probably right now it is not there. Probably for all the times this needs to be done. And I very strongly feel that we hardly have any scanty data about water, the water resources, more so on the groundwater. There are innumerable number of, some people give a number of 35 lakh borewells, 3.5 million borewells. I think it must be much more than that. Probably how much is the draft, we don't know. And very few wells are monitored. And I got my own reservation about the recharge computation stage of groundwater development. But much more needs to be done in this area. Well, we made a water policy for Karnataka state, which was issued in January 2020. I strongly advocated the need for the concept of well card, just like Aadhaar card, PAN card, well card. Every well should have a sensor which gives a near real-time value on the pre-pumping water level, the pumping water level. If you can know the quantity of water being pumped, Q, the voltage, it gives me enough data to play with that and provide a prognosis of the health of the borewell like this. I can make a prognosis. I can say the green one on the top, the borewell continues to be in good health, whereas the bottom one, the red one, the borewell health has dwindled over the years and is about to die. A prognosis can be made. The farmers or any well owner can be informed. You see, it is going to die maybe in a couple of months or a couple of weeks. Right now, this is not possible. We don't have the facility to make a diagnosis. Probably with this, I put it in a perspective, needs. So here the strategic framework for sustainable development of water resources, monitor and move forward, understand the problem, identify and appraise options, deliver solutions. Why, what, how, interrelationship between documents. There are documents, many documents. When you put it together, it will answer many questions. Why, what, how. This is how a good understanding will evolve. Only we need to think about data analytics. When you talk about data analytics in the water sector, in the biodiversity sector, descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, inquisitive analytics, prescriptive analytics, Preemptive analytics. Preemptive is, well, it can be rolled out. Well, so preemptive analysis. So descriptive analytics, inquisitive analytics, predictive analytics, descriptive analytics, and preemptive analytics. We need to move towards data, not only data gathering. Along with that, we need to go for data analytics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning in a perspective way. Right now, to my knowledge, well, lot more needs to be done. We are yet to start working on this direction. So when we talk about data analytics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, well, it is widely used in IT, e-commerce, banking, healthcare, retail, manufacturing, but data analytics, no in the case of water sector. So here, if you just evolve with the good data analytics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, probably we can have precision sustainable water resources management, precision sustainable agriculture, precision sustainable biodiversity management. So the approach, the way forward in assessment, development, and management of groundwater, surface water, water resources, biodiversity is a shift, a paradigm shift from empirical and theoretical to data analytics. Precision agriculture, climate smart agriculture, and smart biodiversity planning, sustainable water resources management, and water use efficiency, irrigation efficiency, water footprint. These are all the offshoots which we can think of once we move to data analytics. Move from empirical, theoretical to data analytics. Learning, experience, excellence. We can achieve excellence and addressing the current and expected problems, complex problems already we have around us. It's going to be much more complex in years to come. Probably without this, or in my personal opinion, we will not be able to achieve excellence. Probably no experience. Well, yesterday's experience may not be relevant today. Probably in a near real time, when we carry out data analytics, probably certainly, no doubt, we will be able to really excel ourselves. So then probably any project for that matter, any understanding, any project, whatever we have around us, need to be, a sustainability assessment and evaluation need to be done, giving a different ranking, whether it is close to best international practices, whether it's close to high standard performance, whether it meets basic sustainability guidelines, whether there are any gaps in meeting sustainability guidelines, whether there are poor performance, map the gaps in compliance, and well, no evidence of meeting sustainability guidelines, we should not hesitate to say it is a very, very poor project. Probably this is what we need to keep it in mind when we talk about sustainable management, biodiversity or water resources, hydrological regime per se. So in a perspective, probably we need to talk about equality and equity. There is a subtle difference between equality and equity. You can see the picture. Which one we prefer, equality or equity? Equity cannot be achieved without a good science and technology tool. As I said, the good science and technology tool, equity at an individual scale, at a land parcel scale is needed, it can be done. Equality is giving people the same thing. Equity, fairness in every situation. And well, I just have another cartoon from R.K. Lakshman. So a crowd of people are there. Whose pulse is this? So having a regional scale data and giving advice at a local scale or individual village wise or land parcel level, does it make any sense? I don't know. Personally, no, I'm not comfortable. This is what is going on. But I said, my young friends, it is, a balancing act, learning, experience, excellence. Probably it is you will enjoy it. Probably once we have the data analytics, and well, this act is very, very, and we need to have a water budgeting, at least 5 square kilometer grid to start with, and extending it to land parcel level, and linked to water resources management, sustainable water resources management, and sustainable biodiversity management. Thanks. I think this is what, in brief, I wanted to share with you. I think I was given half an hour time. I think I have finished a little more, finished within the half an hour, whatever time.
Yes, sir. Another, you can continue, sir. Under 15 minutes. Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Because
Please, sir, please.
so what I want to share with you is when we talk about is biodiversity, and also, as I said, this water resources sector. Some of the thoughts I already shared with you about the reuse of the grey and black water, the sewage and effluent. Well, it is good. Certainly, we need to, but we need to be very, very cautious, and lot more needs to be done. Lot more new learning has to come. Lot more whatever is going on elsewhere. We need to really make a great improvisation in the concept itself and in the project components. Probably I had the opportunity of visiting one of the STP. Well, a big board is there. It said the capacity is 50 MLD, 50 million liter per day. So I'm keeping aside the quality issue. I'm talking about quantity. 50 million liter per day is the capacity of the sewage treatment plant, secondary treatment, not tertiary, secondary treatment plant. So out of my own inquisitiveness, I measured what is coming out, treated water. It was just 2 MLD. So this is what goes on. Just read the board, 50 MLD. Well, take the 50 MLD, go on and make some reports, make some studies, publish some paper. I am just treating 50 MLD and pumping out the water. But actually it is 2 MLD. Well, what is the system and process? Why 2 MLD in place of 50 MLD? So this is one experience I want to share with you. Last year, 2019 again, no, 2018, no, sorry, 2018, no, we had a huge landslide, no, very, very high intensity rainfall, huge landslide in Kodagu, Madikeri, we all know about it. And at that point of time, well, you know, I retired in 2014 from Government of Karnataka. IIITB, I came out of IIITB in 2017-18, this landslide happened. With the friends like you know, I could able to get hold of a 3D subsurface imaging equipment, went to one landslide area and did the 3D subsurface imaging. Believe me, it was really amazing, the 3D imaging which I were able to see. It was really amazing. You know, where the super saturation is there, how the drainage is required to be done, subsurface drainage. It really opened up a new perspective for me. So right now, well, to my knowledge, how many institutions, how many academic institutions or in the government department, universities, they have got equipment for 3D subsurface imaging? Hardly any. So what I mean to say is we need to really have a new perspective in our thinking. And well, I just toyed with the idea of, you know, how good is the desilting, because, you know, desilting is done in many of the tanks. In my opinion, it is being done very indiscriminately. Well, because, you know, when our ancestors constructed tanks, and Professor Rangana sir is there, and certainly, you know, you should be able to complement me or add on to it. Normally, these tanks sites were selected in areas where it is subsurface is impermeable, where the percolation is minimum, where the rock exposure is there, where the soil is bit impermeable, things like that. So when we talk about desilting of the tank, we think that we are going to augment the recharge to groundwater. But many cases, it may so happen, it may enhance evaporation losses, much less groundwater recharge. Because, so just to really get an idea, I carried out a 3D subsurface imaging in a tank bed in Chikballapur district. And I think my friend, Mr. Anjana Reddy from Chikballapur, I think he's also participating. I saw him in the, in the picture. So I know and many other farmers. When we carried out the subsurface imaging, believe me, it was amazing. It gave areas which requires desiltate, not that entire tank bed requires desilting. Only a selected portions need to be desilted. But all the idea is to augment the groundwater recharge. So, but if the idea is to augment evaporation losses, well, it can be indiscriminately, it can be. But the tanks are by and large totally dry, remaining dry for the last 20 to 25 years in many interior parts of the Karnataka state, Kolar, Chikballapur, Tumkur, and adjoining areas. Probably when you look back, because we are talking about biodiversity, also agriculture is also part of the biodiversity, agriculture, horticulture, things like that. What comes to my mind is the big impact of on the biodiversity as well as water resources. They go hand in hand. Is started from the time we started plowing our land with tractors, huge big blade. So since then, the overland flow dwindled drastically. Overflow. Hello? Hello? Okay. Sorry. So I think now the question answer.
If the audience have got any question answers, please you can ask the questions.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir. This is Sir Prasanna. Sir, in your initial slides, you were mentioning that the coronavirus found to be more near sewage plants.
Yeah, in and around STPs. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does this coronavirus reaches those plants, sir? In what form it reaches there?
Oh yeah, it's a very good question. Interesting question.
Concentration of the
No. What is thrown out by the human beings? So, hello? Hello?
Yeah, hello. Yes, sir.
Yeah. What is,
I'm audible.
what is thrown out by the human beings in the toilet? They do carry. Yeah. They do carry. And STPs, when they do aeration, these aerosols go into the surrounding atmosphere. Yeah. And well, it has been proved in, they have found the coronavirus in the sewage water in Netherlands, France, Australia, many other countries. And they have taken adequate care. They are using PPE. There are people who operate these STPs, they are far away from the habitations, they use PPE there, just because of precautionary measure. Now, following this April 22 report, Central Pollution Control Board issued guidelines that all the people working in sewage treatment plant need to wear PPE, just like any other medical professional people. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, now, thank you very much, sir, for your elaborate speech on the biodiversity. Now, Langashruti madam will be giving the vote of thanks, proposing the vote of thanks. Langashruti madam.
So, good evening, everyone.
Dr. Prakash sir, your presentation was excellent. Sir, all the delegates were very happy, and I must appreciate your vision and ability to predict the various situations, especially in COVID-19 situation. No one thought that corona can be present in STP also, as Sarvantarayami. The precautionary measures that were taken to prevent the spread of corona to the people working in STP is really remarkable, sir. Study of bowels and groundwater in HSR layout area as an industrial establishment was closed and less consumption water was there, and it's a very good analysis for water management. Rainfall temperature distribution, surface soil moisture, root zone soil moisture,
a recording of this data for Karnataka was amazing and informative. The concept of well card is really creative idea by your genius brain, sir. Learning experience and excellence model for sustainability with AI and data mining, modeling inputs, giving the message of fairness in every situation for the humankind is very well appreciated, sir. Thank you very much for your wonderful speech, and MSS is grateful for your support. Thank you very much. Thank you one and all for participating in this webinar. Thank you.
On behalf of the Civil Engineering Department of MS Engineering College, I extend a hearty vote of thanks to the Honorable Dr. V.S. Prakash sir, who blessed us with his presence and took out valuable time in his busy schedule to share his knowledge with us. It was very extremely informative, sir. Thank you for all your information, and thank you, sir. We are really blessed. I thank our management of MS Engineering College and our beloved principal sir for the immense support and encouragement. I thank all the HODs of MS Engineering College, and I thank Mr. Pankaj from the Department of Computer Science for the technical assistance. I also thank all the participants for their involvement to make this webinar a success. I thank one and all. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. And sir, Rangana sir, thank you, sir. Thanks for being with us. And it is a great, I will come and meet you, sir, in person. And Mr. Prince Isaac, advocate, who takes a lot of interest in the environmental issues. I'm happy to see him. And Professor Anjane, he is also a farmer leader who takes a lot of interest in issues related to biodiversity and water. And Professor Shivkumar, thank you very much for giving this opportunity. And the principal of the institute, all the professors. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir, to blessing of, I'm really, sir. Thank you very much, sir, Rangana, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Prakash, sir. And I thank Principal Badrinaran, sir. Thank you.